my name is Yvonne Max, and I'm the founder and chair of the channel community, and also the founder and CEO of CoCheer, a coaching and consulting practice, and a channel community gold sponsor. Welcome to the next episode of Smashing the Class Ceiling. In this series, I will be interviewing and showcasing some of the fantastic individuals that we have in the channel who have all come from a low socio-economic background, but have gone on to build incredibly successful careers. They'll be sharing their stories of how they've navigated the corporate corridors and smashed through that class ceiling. So without delay, I would like to welcome my very next guest, Dr Colin Williams. So Colin is the UK Business CTO Security at Computacenter, and also, like me, an IT channel veteran. Thank you so much, Colin, for agreeing to come on the show and share your story with us. I've been really excited about this one.
Good afternoon. How are you?
I'm really good, thank you. So, Colin, you and I have known each other for many years, and we first met, I think it was at a Cisco event many years ago, and since then we've become good friends. And I think part of that is because we both have a shared passion just for helping, supporting and mentoring other people, and you've been a great supporter of the channel communities. So whilst I personally may know quite a bit about you, not as much as I think, but quite a bit, most people listening to this won't have any idea of who Colin is and where you've come from, etc. So tell me about where you grew up and your early career.
Okay. Thanks for that glowing introduction. So Colin Williams, proud North Londoner. People don't realise there's a North-South divide in London, so I'm a North Londoner. Don't support a North London team, so let's get that out of the way nice and early. So I grew up, I've got two sisters. I'm a middle child of two sisters. And so I've got that joy of being a middle child, and middle child syndrome is a real thing. I was fortunate, stroke unfortunate, and I'll explain that in two different ways. When I was very, very young, I was one of those smart kids, probably too smart for my own good. And so some would say that's a gift, and I was probably down as a gifted child, but being really direct, if you're very, very gifted when you're younger, at a time when it's better to conform and be like everybody else, and you're also from an ethnic minority, it doesn't really work very well. So at a time when everybody wanted to be the same, not only was I different because I was a gifted kid, I was different because I was black. And therefore in my own class, I was a minority. So I suppose when I was growing up at the start, things were a bit complex.
Right.
I was probably wrestling in my most youngest age with, do I suppress being a bit of a smart kid to try and conform or be part of everyone's team and belong? Or do I just carry on being me, and what will be, and everybody else will have to work it all out? And so at quite an early age, I kind of saw firsthand what inclusion really looked like, what being on the outside really looked like. And that probably, along with the fact that my late mother was a nurse, it kind of fueled me to say I never ever wanted anybody else to feel excluded. I never ever wanted anybody else to not be their authentic self and be able to show up and just be them. And so almost from my own very early journey, it shaped how I've been forever really with everybody else, because I just don't think it's a fair world unless somebody can show up like themselves.
I absolutely love that. So what was your early career then? So obviously you were incredibly smart, you still are. You obviously done incredibly well, but what was your first ever job?
So my first ever job wasn't anything to do with IT. I worked, I always knew I wanted to do technical things, but I didn't know at the time they were really called technical things. I just understood early technology. I understood anything that was delivered by electronics or anything that was delivered by something scientific. I understood it. I didn't know at the time why I understood it, but I just did. So I felt at home with that stuff. But that wasn't my early jobs. Like everybody else, I did early office jobs, and I think I even worked just filing things as maybe a 18-year-old filing things in those filing cabinets back then, but like a filing clerk or whatever it is, just filing lots and lots of paperwork. But my first IT jobs were more luck than judgment. To a point where I kind of thought, this work administrative thing, working in an office isn't me. I'm sure there's something that is better appealed or better akin to my own skills, which is technical or scientific. And so I just tried to get jobs in anywhere that had something that looked like a computer. And back then there weren't many organizations. And so my early jobs were office jobs until I started to chip away and almost go and look for technical scientific jobs with anywhere that had a computer.
Love that. You say about the filing, it brings back a memory of mine. So when I my first job was on YTS,
Oh, yeah.
admin assistant, and it was in this car sealants manufacturer. And I remember going in, so I'd come from being a big fish in a small pond, i.e. school, to becoming a minnow in a large corporate. But you have the same attitude that you sort of swagger in with you do from school, but to be told straight away that I would be doing the filing. And I was like, what? The filing? You know, me? And then I was like, no, you'll be doing the filing. So off I did to do the filing. But I made sure it was the best filing system they ever had. I thought, if I'm going to do a rubbish job, I'm going to make sure I do it to the best of my ability.
Weird. That was a cop-out, wasn't it? In the old days, the administrative assistant job was that throwaway job that everyone had. And there was almost an infinite amount of roles because it allowed organizations to say your job is whatever we tell you when you get there.
Absolutely. Yeah, love it. So how did you actually get in the channel then? So
my big break, I think was, and I'll say this very publicly, was bluffing my way into Compaq. If I almost go back to the early days, I was fortunate to get an interview to work at this early stage organization at the time because they were quite small. No, not quite small. They'd come over from the US. And I always speak fondly and proudly of this company that came to take on IBM at the time, who back then were almost impregnable. You know, IBM was the pioneer of large mainframes and the pioneer, along with DEC, of mini computers, and then the pioneer of what was the early PC, the early x88 and x86 PC. And IBM effectively ruled everything, right? That was the old adage that no one got fired for buying IBM or saying IBM, right? So Compaq was this really, really cool company. And they had a very early, think of the PCs that we use today, they had a very early version of that. And they had a very early version of a portable PC. That was almost like a small sewing machine thing that you dragged around. And I'd worked for a very, very small computer company. And there was a role at Compaq, temporary role, just to, I don't know, be on a support desk or whatever it's going to be. And I remember in my interview, bluffing my way through my interview, as you do back then. Have you got experience in working on devices like this? Of course I have. How could I have? I've just come into the country with these things. I've never seen them before. I had obviously seen PCs before, but I'd never seen this. And I remember I had to go in and just pretend I knew stuff. So I got left in the room to try and do some very basic engineering. It's part of my interview. Do some very basic engineering of these systems. And I remember bluffing my way, and of course I know how to fix that PC and fix that thing. I'd never seen them before in my life. And I remember getting this pretty compact screwdriver and just finding the best bits of all these broken computers and putting them in the thing that looked like it was the best bit of the computer. And I kind of got these computers to work just by taking the best looking parts out of everything and then putting them into one thing. And this person kind of said to me, "Oh, you seem like you know what you're talking about." I went, "Oh, yes." And I kind of came out with glowing terms about all this configuration. I didn't do anything. I just moved some boards around and stuff. So I managed to get a job in Compaq. And it was great because the good thing about working in Compaq, because they were this new kid on the block, right? So people don't realize way back then when IBM had lots and lots of legacy platforms and legacy systems, but probably, if they were honest, they weren't as passionate about the PC-based era as they were with the mainframe era. IBM made their money on mainframes. That was their era. And it was companies like Compaq that were trying to blaze the trail along with Microsoft in this brave new PC-based world. So it was almost a privilege to be part of Compaq when they were helping to bring life to a whole new era. Let's call it the x86 PC era. Let's call it the portable computing era, because prior to Compaq delivering the Portable 1 and Portable 2, there were no portable computers. So just to be part of an organization at that time, blazing the trail and brand new technology that no one had seen before, that you're able to consume as much as possible and learn as much as possible, it was almost a perfect place for me because I found it really easy to make sense of all that stuff. And there was almost an infinite amount of stuff to learn all the time. And so, yeah, I almost look back on prior. There are an awful lot of people in the channel right now who were, almost old alumni of Compaq way back when, Compact was then subsequently acquired by
HP.
HP, but they've all become great people in very, very high-ranking roles, but they all started at Compaq in Richmond in the UK way back when. And so, that was probably my first doorway into the channel, because Compaq was a channel company.
Yeah. How exciting. So you blagged your way.
Yeah.
Best thing that ever happened.
Yeah.
So I remember when HP acquired Compaq. Compaq was the biggest company, but HP had a stronger brand on the front end, didn't it? So we were like, why is they taking the HP name, not the Compaq name? Because Compaq was better known for its technology as opposed to the sort of the back end type stuff, as opposed to the front end, which HP was. But yeah, I mean, I wasn't fortunate enough to work for Compaq, but I used to sell their servers back in the day before they got acquired by HP.
Great money. Great way to make
money. Many years ago.
Good old days.
The good old days, yeah. So what do you think have been your biggest challenges that you've faced, and how did you overcome them?
I think you've heard me speak about things like this in the past a lot. I'm fortunate, and the reason why I say I'm fortunate is I know not everybody's wired this way. I'm naturally an introverted individual, which sounds a bit balmy when you consider how many times that you'll see me presenting, or maybe delivering on panel or on stage presentations for my own organisation. But I'm naturally introverted, so if I had my way, I'd sit in a corner and I'd just either talk to no one or talk to the friends that I've got. That said, I'm quite at peace in backing me. So I don't fear anything in front of me. I don't fear the person next to me. I don't fear a person who could be better than me. I don't fear a potential challenge that could be in front of me. All I do is see that as being something that, with an understanding of the outcome, I can work it out. I can work out how to get around this. So I suppose that probably helped me, because there absolutely are material issues that exist. Way back when, ethnic minorities or people from a minority background were not pervasive and not very, very, I wouldn't say well known or well thought of, but there weren't many of us, right? Mm-hmm. Just do the maths, right? There were less people from minority backgrounds, so by definition, there'd be less people in the industry. So that was definitely one. It can go one of two ways. It means that if you're one of few, you stand out. But equally, if you're one of few, that means you kind of haven't got strength in numbers. Mm-hmm. I've probably seen both sides of that coin at different times. And whilst there'll almost certainly be roles and opportunities and other things that I didn't get because of unconscious bias and other things that were fundamental and obstacles in my path, because I didn't see them, therefore I just pushed ahead through them anyway. In many cases, I just got where I meant to go just by sheer hard work, tenacity, and a lot of self-belief. Part of that background is a reason why that I've seen other groups in the same way. When I was in somewhere, I remember being a company called Action Computer Supplies, and I used to kind of head up pre-sales there, and it was like that mail order catalogue way back then. Did really, really well. Acquired by Insight, and in the end, when Insight landed in the UK, and I remember then, and I used to head up a pre-sales team. I went out of my way to find women to join the pre-sales team, not because they were women, but because they were capable, and they were being ignored because they were women. So because I'd probably been ignored in the past by being a minority, I went out of my way to say anybody else in the marginalised group, if you're capable, then you're welcome.
I love that. I absolutely love that. So literally trailblazing from a inclusivity perspective from literally day one.
Without knowing it. So I didn't go out of my way to be a D&I person. I'm not now. I just believe in fairness. I told you, my mother was a nurse, and she always said to me, all you need to do is be respectful and decent to everybody you meet. And so I don't really care which socio-economic group you come from. I know a lot of very, 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 very wealthy people, but I don't really care. I'm quite well known for giving away money to people on the streets, because the way I look at it is I don't see a reason why everybody you meet shouldn't be treated in a fair and respectful and decent way. And if you do that, you don't need D&I as such. You just need to behave in the right way. And that's all I've ever done. I don't know any other way. So blame my wonderful late mother.
Oh, bless her. And obviously she's done an amazing job with you. So that again, my parents were very similar. We didn't have a huge amount, but manners cost nothing.
Yeah,
Treat people fairly, be kind, be nice.
yeah,
And you often see people that do come from less fortunate backgrounds or upbringing, probably the most generous amongst others, because we're just you become so much more grateful for everything that you have and more appreciative.
yeah.
Um,
The term fairness is used and often incorrectly used, right? The world isn't fair; it just
no,
isn't, right? But you have within your power the ability to exhibit a level of fairness to people that you interact with.
yeah,
That's within your gift to do so. So that's the thing I always try and do. I try and be fair and decent to everybody. Of course, it doesn't always come back to you in a fair and decent way, but that doesn't matter to me. I can't
no,
control that. I can't affect that. All I can
exactly.
affect is the behaviour that I own, and that's the behaviour you're going to receive. What you do
Yeah.
with that, that's down to you.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think that it's easy to, sometimes get burnt in these situations. And you could use that as an excuse or reason to change your behavior, your values. But why should you? Just because somebody else doesn't treat other people the same way, don't change who you fundamentally
Agreed.
are because of it.
Agreed.
No, it's 100%. So, Colin, what has been the most proudest moment of your career and why?
Oh, um, under duress, I'm going to have
Not.
to mention. No, I suppose under duress, I'm going to have to mention my doctorate, even though I don't want to. I'm going to have to. Um, and this is going to sound very, very dramatic because I didn't do it for me. Um, I have this conversation too often about this doctorate of mine, and everyone. In fact, I had one yesterday with something. Okay, now you've got it. What are you going to do? And what else is going to happen? And I go, it doesn't really change. Hasn't changed my current job. Hasn't
No.
changed who I am. It hasn't changed who I present myself as, even though people mention it, and I kind of need to stop cringing. But I did my doctorate for tomorrow's me. I did my doctorate so tomorrow's me could know that there are no there are no excuses for not arriving where I arrived. I had the same obstacles that many have. I had the same challenges that many have. I had the same reluctance to even start it, much as complete it. But I equally didn't have anybody else to look forward to say, well, you did it, so I can do it. So
Yeah.
way back when I started it, and I nearly didn't do it, and for about a year I didn't want to do it. It was probably aligned to the same time when I started doing more outreach stuff. I do a lot of work. We've got some amazing people in my own company who do an awful lot of employee outreach in schools and colleges and universities and groups like that. And so I was often standing on stage as old, wise-ish bloke, talking about my career and talking about, if you do the right things and you study hard and you remain focused and you believe in yourself, you'll end up standing on a stage like me, talking to people like you years from now. It was almost that realization. I didn't have that person to see on stage who looked like me, who spoke the way I spoke and came from the background I came. I didn't have that person. And wouldn't it be great? Wouldn't it be a nice cherry on the top if that person also had all of the external badges of honor that you get, like a doctorate or an MB or an OB or something grand like that? Because a lot of those things would be deemed to be out of reach. A lot of people don't dream as big as they should do. I often say to people, dream really, really big, right? And then when you find that dream even bigger than that, because that's the thing that you really should be putting your effort into, to channel all of that real passion that you've got.
Yeah.
And so that's why I said, well, you know what? And it really was a no, 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 no. And then when I started a doctorate thing, I thought, and I mentioned that when I was at university 2 weeks ago, there were 3 times through a doctorate that I gave up. Absolutely gave up. Mic drop, not doing it, done. And because I was blessed to have 2 amazing supervisors on my course, you get given supervisors, 2
Yeah.
amazing women at Worcester University, who probably pulled me back from the brink 3 times when I said, that's it, I'm done, I'm finished, too tired, can't do it anymore. And it was them who kind of every single time said, well, you did set out to do this for a reason. And you kind of got, not only are you doing good work, well done, but you've kind of got your own purpose and a big cause that you had while you were doing it. And every time when I kind of thought, I'm done and I'm a bit tired, there's an awful lot to do, I still thought about tomorrow's me. I still
I
think
love
that's me.
I
And
love
tomorrow
that.
me to see this. Tomorrow's me. When I'm long gone, well, no, there was another guy from North London where things weren't great at the start, and he had some bumps in the road, but he came out the other side and finished far stronger than he started. And that's yeah, so my greatest achievement outside of my amazing daughters is my doctorate.
And rightly so. You can't be what you can't see. So you're making sure that people can see exactly what, somebody, the right attitude and the right mindset and the right drive can achieve, which is, fantastic. I mean, I don't know many doctors apart from the one I go to at the health centre. Very few and far between. So, I'm very proud to have you as a friend. And quite rightly, you should be very proud. So what do you think? Do you think that coming from a low social economic background has impacted your career at all, either positively or negatively?
In the conversations I have in unis and schools, and even with my own daughters, I talk a lot about resilience. And when you talk to younger people about resilience, their eyes roll over because they almost hear that term too much. They kind of glaze over. Oh, really? But if you come from a pretty tough start, if you come from a tough side of the tracks or whatever it's going to be discussed, you often have to build resilience, right? Because there are going to be bumps in the road. Not everything's going to go to plan. You won't have all the answers to every question or obstacle or challenge that you face. And so there are times where you just need to really dig deep and get through something based on a promise that what's on the other side is worth realizing, is worth getting to. So resilience to me is something you definitely get from being a member of the School of Hard Knocks. Doesn't guarantee you success, but it just means that when the going gets tough, you find a way of keeping going.
That this is something that's come up consistently across everybody that I've spoken to as part of this podcast. Grit, resilience. It's the thing that is a common thread across most people that have, because you're so used to getting knocked back, but and every time you just get up, dust yourself off and go again, which if you're come from a more privileged upbringing, you're a little bit more sheltered. So when you do have to face something that's a little bit tough, you just don't know how to deal with it. So I think, again, we talk about positives and negatives. Same, I think that's been a very big positive of my own personal journey, has been that resilience that you get from all the different scenarios and situations that you get yourself in. Some better than others, but yeah, no, I agree.
I almost don't like. I don't necessarily want to align with the polarization of people who come from less and people who come from a lot, right?
Yeah.
Because ultimately it's just how you deal with all the resources that you have available to you.
Yeah.
I know an awful lot of wealthy people who live very dysfunctional lives, even though they've got an infinite amount of resources. In other words, they still got the resources, haven't used them in the right way. I know an awful lot of people previously who had a lot less, but had amazing lives because they used the resources they had in a very, very different way. So, I'm a believer in the fact that someone, somewhere, somehow needs to help you with understanding how to maximize the value of the resources that you have to maximize the value of you. You could end up with someone, yes, I've got resilience, but I still have to be smart about the things in front of me, next to me, behind me. Still had to use them well. I still had to make better choices, right? One of the secrets to my success, and I always say to people, because I don't fear failure at all, and it sounds really crazy, at all, zero fear of failure. So I will absolutely attempt everything. Doesn't mean I like everything in front of me. Doesn't mean I want to do everything in front of me, but I'll attempt it because I know that if I don't get it right, not only do I know what didn't go to plan that time, and I just need to modify it to get a different outcome next time. Again, because I don't fear failure, I've got no guarantee the next time also going to get the outcome, but it don't matter. I'm going to learn from that one. And through as many iterations as I need to get to what I can deem to be a positive outcome, I'm going to keep on getting through those cycles. It doesn't matter to me how many times those cycles go through, because I've learned slightly more at every single time.
Yeah.
And again, things like that have managed to get me here, because I never ever was afraid of what forward looked like, ever. And still I'm not afraid of that now.
No, absolutely. I like to call fail first attempt in learning. It's just a nice way of thinking about it. Because it is, isn't it? Like you've just said, it's a case of if it's first time doesn't work, you just try again and figure something else out. But yeah, no, that's great. Knowing what you know now and everything that you've achieved, what would you say to a younger version of Colin?
So I do say this a fair amount when I'm at universities and stuff. I've got to try and remember some of the things I say. Be a lifelong learner. I'm at a ripe old age that I don't want to disguise on this podcast. But every day for me will always still be a school day, and it's never going to change. And there are times when I still almost laugh at my own self internally when I've got that childlike curiosity about something really, really mad. People seem to lose that curiosity when they get older, but I don't. I still ask myself really, really childlike questions about things in my own head. So be a lifelong learner. I'd task everyone to focus more. Here's where I get very controversial. All these people, when they get on stage and they become really, really famous, and they say, "Oh," and they almost distort the perspectives of all the younger people in front of them. You can be anyone that you want. No, you can't. No, you can't. You can't be anything you want to be. You can't be anyone. You cannot. What you can be is a realistic evolution of who you are now. What you can achieve is realistic outcomes. So this nonsensical theory, you can do anything. No, you can't do anything. But what you can do is some very well-formed things that you plan to do, that you invest the skills to do, that you apply real focus to do, that you've got a real passion for. You can do those. You can't do anything. So I often say to the organisations I present to, be very, very focused. Be surgical in your focus in relation to what you want to do. And I suppose the last thing to me that you only learn when you get older, and you touched on it based on your early job. Together, we absolutely achieve more, right? So learn the power of team. Right? That's very hard when you're going through a career ladder, and I've got to be the best version. I'm going to be better. I'm going to be better than the person next to me. I. But then as you get smarter and you get wiser, you realise, but surely we is way more powerful than me.
Yeah.
And when you start having greater self-belief in the value of you, right? What is my own self-worth? What is the value that I articulate? When you start getting more comfortable with that, then you start to open the doors to the benefit of team, because you then say, okay, so if the value of me is so clear, surely if I surround myself with other individuals who are equally valuable, together we are absolutely way more powerful than me alone.
Yeah.
You only learn the power of team when you get older.
Yeah.
And so be a lifelong learner, focus more, and really understand how to manage and maximize the power of being part of a team.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think, I was lucky enough to play sport quite competitively when I was young.
Very important to me. Yeah,
and I went from being sort of a tennis player to then hockey. And I fell in love with hockey more than the tennis because I liked being part of a team. Yeah. I wasn't very good at the competitiveness one-on-one, but when you put me in a team, I was like all in because everybody's camaraderie. Yes, absolutely. And I think that was quite, I was very fortunate to have that opportunity because that did set me up for the same reasons as what you've just mentioned.
I'm a big believer in younger individuals being part of team sports for everything you mentioned. You learn so much about yourself, and you learn so much about yourself that can be translated not just into the workplace but also into your social, societal existence as well. So yeah, I'm a massive believer in team sports.
Yeah, absolutely. So what support and help do you think that companies could be doing to help individuals that come from a low social economic background?
Open your doors. A lot of the organisations I work with right now, and some of them are doing amazing work. And the start of that, I won't mention the name of the organisation here, but I did some work in an organisation as part of a panel a month or two ago, and it was just great to hear individuals sitting in an audience to say, "I've walked past this building for years, but never thought I'd be in it." And so many of those organisations with those amazing buildings in Liverpool Street and Bishopsgate and the Square Mile, Canary Wharf, who've got people in the surrounding communities with lots of capability, back to my point, lots of capability, lots of potential, lots of fire, lots of desire, the ability to learn. And all they want is a chance. All they want is someone to open the door and say, forget about the biological packaging that you're in. right? Forget about the color that you are. I'm going to assess you on capability and your ability to deliver an output or an outcome.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's the only thing that will determine whether or not you walk through these doors or not, that's it. And so organizations open their doors, be more welcoming, be welcoming to everybody, regardless of where they come from, what they look like, and use that capability be the main yardstick.
Yeah.
And then male, female, doesn't matter, it's going to be, color won't matter. If you're capable and you're competent, then you're welcome.
Yeah, I love that. And the Social Mobility Foundation, who our the channel community's charity partner, they have this lovely saying, talent is everywhere, but opportunity is not.
Very true.
So by opening up the doors, you're going to provide those opportunities for the talent that exists. It just not maybe can access it currently. So great piece of advice there. What one piece of advice would you give to somebody from a low socio-economic background, could put my teeth back in, who is trying to navigate a career in the channel?
You mentioned earlier on about you can't be what you can't see and things like that. I would, in the world of social media, you've got far greater access to people. You've got a far greater chance to be seen. So I would say understand the power of professional social media, things like LinkedIn. It's very different to TikTok and Instagram. So forums like LinkedIn are very, very powerful at helping you, the individual, to show up. You know, there are wonderful people that I've seen who show up on LinkedIn by their brands, and by virtue of doing that, they've managed to get themselves roles. And also, via channels like that, it allows you to reach out and find, whether it's a formal mentor, that might be an over-rotation for some, right? Because you can reach out and say, hello, person X, I really admire how you show up on digital media, what you say, how you communicate it, the stories that you tell, the presence that you manage to radiate. Can you give me some guidance on how I could either achieve a similar thing, or can you give me some guidance? So whether it's just reaching out to someone to kind of get some advice, or reaching out to see if you're one of the fortunate ones that they might well mentor, via these new professional social media platforms, you have far greater access to that sort of forum than you ever would have done. Because in the past, you'd have had to bump into a random person somehow in a million to one chance, which never would have happened.
No, absolutely. And it's, you know, with LinkedIn is a great example. And most people will want to help you.
Yes.
And what's the worst that can happen? They say no. You've lost nothing because by asking. So no, that is a fantastic piece of advice. And like you say, we didn't have access to that. We had to physically go out. So now use the opportunities and the tools that they have available to them. Colin, you have well and truly smashed the glass ceiling. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us.
Thank you very much, Yvonne. Looking forward to the next one.
It's been great. Thank you.